Okay, so when the camera fell, it turned itself off and I didn't realize it started back up. So we'll get to that hammering part in a minute. So this one, you can see that on this one, as opposed to the previous one, that becket is broken off. So all we have is curved wire. We can't put that curved wire into a tuning pin. It's just not going to happen. So here's what I do with these that have been broken off. I'm going to take something like this all-purpose great screwdriver that we love, or something like it, run it through the coil like that, and then just this string has got good tension on it. It's attached at the hitch down there. I'm just going to pull. Right now I'm pulling back toward myself in order to straighten that wire out. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm just about to the end of the curve and it's going to jump off of there. Right now I'm hooked at the very end of that, and just so that now I have, in essence, a straightened out wire, but I still have this little hook on the end. There's usually a little piece at the very end that needs to be snipped off at the very end of the wire that's kind of got a little hook on it or something. Now I'm going to take my pliers here and straighten out without crimping the wire. I want to just straighten it out at the very end. Just gently kind of grab a hold, straighten that out. So I've got enough to make a good becket that's straight. Then, the becket's going to be about 1/4 of an inch, size of a tuning pin. So I'm going to put this up here on the string like that. This is a stiff string. Turn it, get myself a good 90-degree, give or take, becket there. Alright. Tuning pin. I'm going to make sure I get this coil going the right way all the time. So, stick that in there. It may be a little resistant. These holes are snug. You may need to trim off the very end. You want to get that becket seated really good in the pin. I'm going to use vice grips to force it on in there. This won't be so much of an issue on the smaller strings because they'll just go in the pin easier. I don't want to bend that becket. I want it to be straight. I'm going to take it off of there. Becket still has a little, where's it? Has a little bit of a curve to it, so I got to straighten that out, or it's just not going to go in the pin. So I'm just going to try to straighten that out a little bit here. I'm just grabbing it again. Make sure I got a good 90-degree turn on it. Okay, let's try that. It's a little longer than it needs to be. I might snip the end of it off. Okay, that went in much better. Ow. Okay, came out the other side. Good. Okay, so I'll get it on the pin. I'm going to take my coil stringer, string winder, threads going to my left. I'm going to keep quite a bit of tension on this to make sure that string stays up good and snug to the pin and to the coil above it, or below it at this point, but it's going to be above it when I turn it over. Okay, so I got a couple windings on there, and I put this down. You can see that it's got a fair amount of slack in it, so I might want to turn it a little bit more. I really don't want to have any slack in it. I don't want to have to turn the pin any more than I have to. I'm going to drive it in most of the way. So I'm going to put it in there. That's better. Now there's not any slack on the string. Pin's in the hole. And at this point then, if I can keep from having the camera fall off again, I'm just going to put a couple taps on this. Started. I'm having to open up the coil. I got a little too tight on the coil, so not straightening up all the way. So I'm going to pull that just a little bit, open up the coil, so my pin goes in straight. A little angle on it actually. Make sure this isn't falling off here. Okay. And then take this tool, right, with the dowel on it. Place that on there like before. Get it started. I'm going to drive it on in. Move this over so it doesn't fall off. Okay, when I drive that down until my shank starts to touch the plate, I just kind of keep wiggling it like this, and I know it's on the right angle. And when I wiggle it, and I can feel it if it's starting to touch the plate. But before I get too far down, I need to take the string. Oops. Okay. I need to make sure before I drive it in too far that I get the string over there. Also make sure, which it is, that the string is still attached at the other end down there at the hitch pin end, which it is. And at this point now, I'm going to continue to drive it on home until that shank ends up closer to the plate. Now, the shank is down. You see it when my tool is straight up and down. The shank is almost touching. I can lean it just a little bit and feel it touching, so I know that that's a good height. At this point, then, I'm going to take the tuning lever, start putting some tension on that string. Not too much. And at the same time, bring up my coil. And then, of course, check the becket. Make sure it's seated good. I'm going to use the vice grips to force that becket on in. Good and solid. Put a little tension on it. Coil looks good. That one's done until we start tuning it. Okay.